Hey there, true believers. You're back for another episode of Monstrous The Podcast, and we're happy to have with us today Mr. Tom Franklin from the Eye of Jupiter. Mr. Tom, how are you doing today, sir?
Doing all right, man. Doing all right. Just doing like you were doing. I actually sent me the link. You said I'm working on a project. And I was actually working on the project that you and I did. Was it Thursday? So
Yep.
yeah, so I was busy too. So other than that, pretty good weekend. Just happen not to be doing my physical manual labor at the moment. So yeah.
Fantastic. So, if you don't care, would you tell everybody a little bit about yourself?
No, I don't mind at all. So my name is Tom. Tom Franklin. I'm 44 years old. Born and raised in Baltimore, Maryland. Joined the U.S. Army in 1998. I actually signed in 97, but it was like a process. I was still in high school. Went to South Carolina. South Carolina to Columbia. I think the name of the fort right now. I went to base training there. Went to Fort Gordon. Then got transferred to Germany. And over there, I did 2 years. Half year of that, I was in the Kosovo conflict. Met my ex-wife over there for 20 years. Lived there for 20 years. Was a machine operator, welder. And then when the pandemic happened, I said, no, I'm not taking that thingy. And I decided to, since she's half Mexican, we just moved to Mexico. And that's when trying to find things to do with myself, because I didn't speak the language, which I'm still working on, started the podcast.
Fantastic. Yeah, I understand about trying to learn the language. I'm still trying to figure out English.
Oh. Yeah, this is my third. I'm a fluent German speaker, and Spanish, I don't know, maybe 30%. I can get by.
Fantastic. Okay, so tell me and the listeners a little bit about the Eye of Jupiter. What is your podcast, and what do you guys like to cover over there?
Well, the Eye of Jupiter is this night. It's spun off. I used to do a podcast with another gentleman, and we went our separate ways. And he started his own podcast, and I started mine. But it was a good learning experience. I learned how to, do my recordings about StreamYard, what we're using now, YouTube, and all the other things that you have to do when it comes to podcasting, contacting people, and things like that. The idea initially was going to be called Smoke and Mirrors. I really enjoy conspiracies, not all of them, but I like delving into them. They're pretty good. They have a good batting average. If conspiracy theory was the third baseman for the Atlanta Braves, he would be a multi-millionaire. And so the concept is just the eye is like, what does it mean? For me, it's like first of all, it's a natural object. It's a storm found on Jupiter that they suggest to be 300 years old. It's larger than the Earth. And it's an eye that goes around, looks at the universe, and looks back at the Earth and what we're doing here. And we cover, all matters of topics, whether it be cryptids, paranormal, UFO topics, consciousness, psychedelics, pretty much anything that's not covered by mainstream media or that is spoken at normal party settings. The uncool people.
Or the nerds like us.
Yeah, dorks.
Yeah. So out of all of the subjects that you cover on the Eye of Jupiter, what would you say is probably one of your favorites to cover?
Definitely, like I was saying, would have to be conspiracy theories. I haven't gotten into them too much because there's just certain things that the platform that we use, YouTube, does not allow. So much for free speech. Once again, conspiracy theory, and fire it out. But like lost history, hidden history, when it comes to things like the food pyramid being completely upside down when I was in school, the Rockefeller school system being basically, telling you to only accept information from authority instead of looking for yourself. So that's basically, it's about like, the podcast is basically about like freedom of your mind to explore, doing that in the eyes of like love and like the golden rule, like just treat others as you want to be treated and allow everyone to to have their ability to say what they want to say. But I also enjoy like cryptids. I pretty much enjoy all of it, but mostly, like I was telling you, Robert, is I enjoy the conversational aspect of it. Like you and I, when you were on my show, it was easy. It was
right.
Awesome.
Right. We had a ball that night.
Yeah, it was great.
We're having fun now too. So
Indeed, on a Sunday.
exactly. Shame on us. Yes.
No.
So, out of all the conspiracy theories, what do you think what is your most favorite? What's the most intriguing conspiracy theory for you?
The most intriguing is the concept that it's a gradual acceleration in technological advances. We came from the Stone and Iron Age through the Copper Age, into the Dark Age, into the Renaissance, all the way up into postmodern world. And I believe that it's been reset multiple times. I mean, if you look at just people could always point towards the pyramids, but look at all of them. Like I just recently went to a place here called Esna, which is Edzna.
Mm-hmm.
It's in the state of Campeche, Mexico, in the Yucatan. So I'm really not that far away from, I think the most popular ones, Chichen Itza. It's about 3 hours away. And you just go out there and you look at these things and you just see them. And these are not even considered the Great Pyramids of Egypt, and the whole, the pharaohs, and I can't think of the word for that, but the pharaonic Egypt, it's not even like that. It's considered less of. But I think, because I'm also a big fan of like Graham Hancock and Randall Carlson and the like, of course. And I think that this is actually the old world, and that's the new world. Because if you look at, say, the Amazon rainforest, it's basically 100 species, 2 different types of trees, which are like the coconut bean, and another one, which are basically trees that, produce a fruit. And, there's, stories of certain explorers, I can't think of the names, I'm not that good, would go down the Amazon rainforest and talk about these civilizations and, big cities of hundreds of thousands of people. And then 100 years later, they went back and they don't exist anymore. And then the LiDAR radar that we're using now is showing all the canals and intricate road systems and everything. It's just, I think we've had multiple resets, and I think they want to hide it from us, to be honest with you. For what purpose? I guess control, but, basically conspiracy stuff.
I'm with you on that one.
Okay.
I share similar beliefs on, with the, if you look at the pyramids that are down there in Mexico, South America, and areas like that, they're, first of all, in a lot of ways, they're much more intricate than the ones that you see over in Egypt. And of course, the ones in Egypt, we do know pretty much that area was more of a jungle than a desert when they were originally made. And,
right.
And so there's a lot of hidden history that's going on in there too. I mean, you kind of, it's kind of right in your face, because the Ministry of Egypt won't let us do certain things that need to be done, as far as looking for, digging a little deeper into what's going on. It's kind of like, nope, this is it. You're not going any farther. We're not.
No, it's only seen as like a tourist attraction. You're not allowed to do any type of like measuring or anything that would be considered more or less scientific, and that's suspect. I mean, if you look at a lot of things, it's there's a lot of that. They don't want certain things coming out, certain, just in that realm. But also today, we see it, what happened 4 years ago, and why you can't look into it. Why can't I look into it? Because you do. It's like they kind of want to keep you within your 5 senses and keep you within fear. So you operate in the lower brain, the reptilian brain, and when you're there, they can then control you to do whatever it is they want you to do.
Yep. And I think there's a lot of questions that they avoid on purpose, because I would call those linchpin questions, or, keystone questions, because I think if you got an honest answer on one of those questions, it would lead to a whole series of questions that they absolutely have no answers for. Because if this one thing is proven a certain way, then that opens up everything. That's kind of like with Bigfoot, the other cryptids, what we call aliens and things like that. If we open that up and we say, okay, this is, then there's a whole spectrum of questions that all of a sudden now they don't want to touch.
Right. And it makes you question the whole, I say, in my podcast, whatever, we say UFO. We don't like UAE. It's just they just change the terminology so that they can put in whatever they want to. But if they're like basically more or less admitting that this is a real thing, then then it, in the 90s, if that would have, 80s even, if that would have came out like, oh yeah, it's possibly real, everyone would have been losing their minds on the street. But now we're like, infatuated with, I don't know, whatever television program and whoever's dancing around on there. Then, so that's out, and that's now kind of more or less public knowledge, like this soft disclosure type thing. Makes me not trust it. I don't know if that's just me being cynical, but at the same time, if that is then considered true, then why not the evidence for the cryptids that we're running into?
Mm-hmm. And it makes me wonder too, okay, is there an advantage? There has to be an advantage militarily towards saying, okay, if you see something in the sky, that's an alien craft. So
right.
Are you saying that so that I don't ask about military craft that are in the air, that are doing things? Because we have military craft that, stay up pretty much 24/7. I happen to know about a drone system that is very large. They're not one of these little pocket drones. You're talking about a very big drone system that stays up like 24/7 in very high altitude.
The eye of something. I think it's the one where they look over top of cities and they can kind of like watch to see where the cars go. And I can't think of the eye of Gorgon or something. This name,
something like that.
Something like that. I've heard about this a couple of years ago.
Yeah, a lot of these triangle shaped ones that you're seeing. That's what those are.
Yeah, they have those. There's an actual patent for it. Of course, I don't know the numbers of the patent, but there's a patent for that one. You can actually look it up and look for triangle. I'll share the link later, I guess. But I think it is. The reason they're admitting to it is because very possible that it's one of two things: what you said, or other agencies, or other, like, there's agencies within agencies, like like the CIA is basically its own governmental agency,
right?
And that's supposedly only can operate outside the United States. But then you have other militaries around the world who may have advanced capabilities, and the United States government doesn't want to seem or look as if they are then lesser than or less powerful. So they just say, well, we don't know what it is, therefore it must be outside of our purview or outside of this, whatever, this reality. So, or they're coming from another planet and we don't know what it is. So it makes them seem like they still have some type of control. It's
right.
Very possible.
Yep.
Or Project Bluebeam.
Yeah, there's all kinds of possibilities that set up out there, and we'll probably never know the full spectrum of the truth, but we may get little bits and pieces here and there.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Tom,
yes,
you've had some interesting experiences in your life. So,
yes, I've had a few.
Why don't you start off with one of the first ones? I'll let you pick what you want to start off with and tell everybody what happened.
We'll go chronologically, dude. Like the first time I've experienced anything that just, how do you explain it? Just shook me to my core. I was only 8 when it happened. This is in the summer of 1988. Very hot that year. I remember it. My family and I were between houses. My dad was between jobs. So my grandmother invited us to stay at her place, and she had 2 spare bedrooms. I was 8 at the time, like I said. My sister was 7. So we shared a room, and my parents shared a room. Now, it's a row home in Baltimore. I always tell the address. It's 338 South Fulton Avenue in Baltimore, Maryland. I know exactly where it is. I don't know if I looked at it on Google Maps, but that's always, sometimes it's old. But as far as I know, it still exists. So these are row homes. Philadelphia and parts of Jersey and Baltimore are known for their row homes. And so it's very narrow, maybe 15, 20 feet wide, and it's very long. So when you go up the steps into this house, into the bedroom, if you go up, you're facing the width of the house. So the left is the front of the house, and that's where my grandmother and her husband were at. And then to the right is the 2 bedrooms. There's no corridor connecting the 2. You literally have to walk through the bedrooms, through 2 doors, and then in the back of the house is where the bathroom is. So if people go to the bathroom at night, they would walk through the 2 rooms to get to said bathroom. And me and my sister had the room in the back before the bathroom. The strange thing is that my parents were both married before they met. Then they got divorced, and they've been married for, they just had their anniversary. It's 1985. Was at 39 years they've been married. And so they both had then, family, children in their former, whatever, spouses.
Right.
So my mother still had temporary custody, and she was like either every weekend or every other weekend. It would be my half sister would come over, and she was about she was born 5 years old, at 12, 13 at the time. And every time she came over, these things would happen, which I now come to know as poltergeist, which is a German word which means noisy ghost. Poltern is to make noise, geist is ghost.
Right.
They actually they have a thing in Germany when you get married. There's a tradition that both families come together in whoever's house, the parents or the mom or dad, don't matter, and they have a thing called Polternacht, which is night of the noise. So what they do is they take dishes from both families, they come out into the driveway or on the street or wherever it is, and I don't know what they do or say, but then they break the dishes out there on the ground, and they sweep them together and then throw it in the trash to like ward off like evil beings. It's like a tradition. So very interesting, those kind of things as well. So when she was there, like one particular night, it happened over multiple times, 2, 3 times.
Mm-hmm.
I'm laying, so you come into the room immediately so the left wall is the wall adjacent to the house next to us. So you come in the room on the right side, there's a bed, then there's a gap between the bed of like, I don't know, 10, 15 feet. And then there's another bed with dressers. On the bottom, on the ground, as you're walking through, there's also shoes and, a couple of dolls and some of our toys in the hallway kind of thing. So my sister and my half-sister were sleeping on the first bed when you first come in, and I was sleeping in the far corner, so the one towards the back right. And we're laying there, and okay, it's time to turn off the lights, 9 o'clock, 9:30, I don't remember, we had a curfew back then or a bedtime. And we turn the lights off, and we're laying in the bed, and all of a sudden the lights would start just flickering. They would come on, they would go off. They would flicker off and then go off. And we start screaming and crying, and then our parents are like, yelling up the steps, stop playing around, it's time to go to bed. What are you doing? Her name, my older sister, you are up there messing with them. Don't be playing with them. They're still young kids. You're better. You're more adult than that. Don't do that.
Yeah.
So I was the chicken out of all this. I was the, excuse my language, chicken shit of all this. So, and my little sister, Jenny, she's been on my show before, is very brave. Even at that age, she's very, she's had a lot of encounters, a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And this is her first one. But later in life, she's had a few more, even more than I've had. So she walks out of the room through the next room and then down the steps and says, "Hey, you don't understand. The lights are flickering off and on. We're not touching them." And they're like yelling at her, "Yeah, you guys are just playing. Get up the steps." And like I said, I don't remember if it's all one night or multiple nights on all the things that happened, but I do remember it being over a few different times. So it kind of ramped itself up. And so one night we're in there and the lights are flickering again. And all of a sudden the lights would go out, and then the shoes I was telling you about on the floor, they were hitting us in the bed. They were being thrown at us. I remember they're screaming, they're pulling their blankets up, screaming, they're getting hit, I'm getting hit. And once again, the parents, what are you doing? Because they're downstairs. It's, the weekend, they're enjoying their beer, listening to their Hank Williams Jr., having a good time. And my sister went again, and she swore, blah, 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 nothing's going, get upstairs. And so this time I get up, and I stand between the two rooms, and the door to the room I stood on swung inwards towards me and would touch the adjacent wall of the house next to us. So as she came up the steps, she was in the first room, and she was maybe 3 or 4 steps in front of the doorway, the frame. And I said, "So what did they say?" And then the door swung past my face and slammed in her face.
Ooh.
It's still one of the most frightening feelings I've ever felt. I just froze. People say there's fight or flight, but there's also freeze. There's 3.
Yes.
Flight, fight, or freeze. And I froze. I don't know if that helped me in my military career later, but at the time I didn't know I was going to have one. But so I'm there. She opens the door and says, "Did you slam the door in my face?" And I said, "That's what, real somber, and I just couldn't get it out really. And she was like, okay. My little sister spun me around like I'm, like it's Weekend at Bernie's, walked me back to my bed, put me in the bed, and then my older sister was still freaking out too. Half sister, she took the sheets and then put them on top of me, and we tried to go to sleep. Lights still flickering. And then I think this is at another time. Then another time, so this happened again, and then at another time, every time she comes over, this stuff happens. She's playing with you, don't do that, blah, blah, blah. So the sheet's on top of me, and we have a fan going. This is hot. It was, maybe, in the nighttime, 80, 85 degrees. It's still hot. There's no real windows, so we have a fan going. But there's a difference in feeling. So between me and the bed sheet, so I'm in there, and I feel like these, like airwaves coming up and over and through the sheets. And I'm freaking out. What's going on? Something's over here, and they're experiencing similar things. So they're experiencing it too. And then there's a particular moment. So there's a gap between the mattress and the wall, which is normal because you don't want any mold growing in the house. And it's about, I don't know, a gap of maybe 4, 5, 6 inches, something like that. And Robert, I distinctly feel, I felt like a hand reach up between the bed, I suppose, and then put its hand on my chest.
Mm-hmm.
And I just flipped out and just lost my mind. And then and then this would happen occasionally, but only when she was there. Only when she was there, which I come to find out later is commonplace, or more common than not, And then it just kind of like either she didn't come anymore, or something happened, or maybe she changed something, in her mind, what we know about poltergeist, theory, hypothesis, however you want to word it. And it just kind of went away. But it never completely went away from us. Me and both of my sisters, we stand toe to toe to anybody who tells us that we were being messed with, by her or someone else. Because my sister's like, I'm laying right next to her. It's not her. She can't throw. It's not ventriloquism of physical objects. That doesn't happen. I think that I'm going to word that, put that on the shirt. Ventriloquism of physical objects. And TM, and yeah, and so my parents never believed me. So for years, anytime there's like a creak in the house, or the house settling, or the wind would actually move the door, I would be freaked out until I was like 15. It took me a long. It still kind of it still bothers me, at least on the subconscious level to this day. It was definitely my introduction to this stuff.
Right. So, where do you sit on the theory that a lot of poltergeist activity happens around where there are young girls who are going through puberty? And do you feel like it's them without knowing it, that it's some type of psychokinesis or something like that? Or could it be that because they're going through that period of time that they're attracting other things to the, kind of like the whole idea of, well, they shine bright like a light in the darkness, and it
shine
attracts
like a diamond.
Yeah. Do you think maybe it attracts these things in, or do you think it's the girls themselves unknowingly?
Well, not to get very specific, but it also seems to follow those girls who have had some type of awful thing happen to them, which I found out later was a thing that did actually happen.
Right.
And that didn't know at the time. So that is also a part of it. It's like trauma. It's a combination of a couple things that turn into something else. So it's this trauma, it's the hormonal change in that period. This is what I know. I'm by no means any type of expert. This is just what I've learned through the podcast and being interested in this stuff.
Right.
And then I think these energy, this, whatever words you choose to use, attaches itself to that person, that being, that soul, and maybe manifests itself through the subconscious of the other person, or it could just be their subconscious, because there's that thing where they say, oh, they're only using 10% of their brain, but which is whatever, I don't know. But I think we are way more powerful than they want to give us credit for, which is also lends itself back to what I was saying before with the whole conspiracy aspect of things.
Oh, I agree. I agree completely. A lot of times whenever people talk about the paranormal, they're referring to ghosts and, things like that. But the paranormal was actually defined as looking into powers or abilities that humans have as far as telekinesis and, clairvoyance and stuff like that. It really did not originally focus on ghosts and demons and angels
Wow.
and all that stuff. That falls under supernatural, or what we call preternatural. There's actually different words. So the use of paranormal, like whenever you see ghost hunters go out and they say, well, we're a paranormal team. Well, unless you have a psychic with you,
Unless 11.
Yeah,
unless 11 is in the trunk with you.
Yeah, unless you have somebody who has psychic powers or whatever with you, you're not a paranormal team. That's a misnomer, which is really funny to
I
to
thought
me.
It would be, when you could Robert, I'm asking you, you're expounding information I'm learning as well. You're kind of unraveling, things that I don't know yet. But couldn't you just kind of maybe define it as things that can't be quantified scientifically?
I would call it actually, I have a term for it, because we're trying to bring cryptozoology, paranormal, and UFOs, the whole thing under one umbrella, and we're calling it anomalogy. So it's the study of anomalies. So if you just put it under one umbrella as an anomaly, then you can work on all of these different things, which quite honestly are probably all related. So then you end up where
that would be beneficial in trying to figure out what this is. I mean, I think people who are interested, like you and I and others that come on our shows and other shows that we've been on, already kind of sense that these things are connected. But I don't know if we necessarily need an umbrella term for it. But I just don't know if that's beneficial. Would you consider it beneficial?
Yes, I would. First of all, we had 3 separate camps who never wanted to have anything to do with one another. So the guys with the UFOs or whatever really thought Bigfoot came from outer space, and then the people who were looking for Bigfoot didn't want anything to do with orbs. And then, because orbs could have to do with ghosts, but then the guys who did the UFOs were like, well, orbs are actually unidentified flying objects. But if we take all of that out, and then we start saying, okay, let's just clear the plate, let's just start over, and we're gonna go back to zero a little bit, and we're gonna start looking at the evidence for what the evidence actually is, and stop trying to go farther than the evidence is allowing us to go. So, so you go out in the woods and you run into something that has red eyes. Well, the first thing people want to do is say, oh, well, it was demonic. It was, it had red eyes. It did. Well, that's a huge leap that you're making that you have no evidence to back it up. So we're talking about working with evidence. If you can make it much more CSI, if you can make it much more, like behavioral profiling, I'm just talking about, can you make it a case that you can put in court? That's what we're looking at.
Have you heard about like where someone it would be a group of 3 or 4 people, they'll go out in the forest and I'll use your example, they'll see a set of red eyes in the woods. But these phenomenon, for the lack of a better term, seem to present themselves sometimes differently to people who are standing next to one another. So it has a lot to do with your own either personal biases or consciousness in itself. So I don't know if you can even then, So you're saying, I guess basically what you're trying to say to encapsulate what you're saying is that hey, let's go ahead and put this together and try to look at it in an objective manner instead of completely subjectively. Subjectivity is important in this matter, but at the same time, let's try to start from some type of mutual platform. I guess that's what you're saying.
Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. I think if we spend more time worried about doing it correctly, as far as this gear actually works, this gear does not work, this is how you perform a investigation or do your research or whatever, and to where we're all on the same page as far as we're doing that. Being subjective is fine. If you have 5 people out in the woods and 3 people see something with red eyes and 2 people see something with blue, that's important. We do need to put that down because that is eyewitness testimony. Eyewitness testimony is fine. And it's corroborating evidence as far as going along with, well, we also found tracks.
Okay.
Now tracks are going to be more objective than subjective.
True.
If you find a 16-foot human track, you found a 16-foot human track. If you have 5 people out there that see 3 different things, well, then that's totally subjective.
Very interesting. It also can be connected with, like, I don't know how much you know about psychedelics, but people having like shared experiences where they'll both take, psilocybin or something like that, and they'll both have subjective, like, not subjective, like, it's the same experience at the same time. Although it's like if you or I were to see it standing right there, not taking these substances, wouldn't see it. It's just, that's the thing that I think in the end, I guess, to really go back to, so I guess 25 minutes ago when you asked me, it's just like, what is this? We all like, we experience this reality in this like player ready one, like I'm here and everyone else is in my video game or my reality. But at the same time, when we are in others, and we used to explore and go around and like, oh, look, this man, the landmass is Eurasia, and this is Pacific, and this is this is Tahiti, this is this and that and the other, and we don't explore that anymore. We explore like the concepts of ideas and thoughts, and evolve our way of looking at humanity and things of that nature. But at the same time, these strange phenomena, it's just what I enjoy is the discovery with others who are open-minded like yourself. And we can just kind of like, throw ideas back and forth, and at the same time, then have more knowledge. So when we do run across somebody who's saying, who's being, like physically like upset, showing like signs of PTSD or things of that nature, or even being, God forbid, catatonic or something like that, we can kind of maybe go, what you're experiencing may be true, and you're not alone in this. And I think people like yourself and others help immensely, especially when you're talking about, what would you call it? Paranormal. What's the other word? Use 2 other words. I've heard one before, and the other one I've never heard before.
There's paranormal, which has to do with someone who has psychic abilities. Then you look at supernatural, so you're looking at something that is otherworldly but can appear biological. Then the other one is what we call preternatural, which is something that actually is biological and physical, but has supernatural elements to it.
Wow! So when you talk about that, you're referring to Sasquatch, Bigfoot, and things like that. That's interesting. Preternatural. I like that one.
Yeah.
You have to write that one down for me and send it to us so I can remember it. Hopefully next time
I will.
I can whip out. That's preternatural. What are you talking about, Tom? Well, Robert told me.
Well, Robert didn't invent it. Robert picked it up too.
You all learn every day. That's the process. Is learning
exactly.
About this thing.
When we stop learning, we're done. They're putting me in a box. But by the time
sense of existing.
Exactly. Right. Okay, so we covered your poltergeist activity and experience. So, what other kinds of things have you experienced?
Well, because you came. I don't know. Have you delved your Hatman experience on your podcast?
Oh yeah, I've totally.
Okay, so
yeah,
because I didn't want to, fire off your pistol rounds about the things that you experienced and how you want to present them. But,
no, go ahead.
Okay, fine, fair enough. You were just talking about it, and I went, well, Robert, I've had a Hatman experience. I think yours is crazy. I've never heard about anyone having one outside and a double take of it at 100 meters after already experiencing it. I've never heard any experiences like that. So it's for me, one in whatever, how many I've heard, 1 in 100. I've never heard one like that before. But mine is more run of the mill, I guess you would say, but it's still not, because people are experiencing these things, and I did. So this time I was in Germany. I had a band, and we were recording an album to just to have something down. So we took a bunch of microphones, and we did everything live on the spot, and we had to take a bunch of takes to make it sound decent and make sure no one made mistakes. And so it was like a whole weekend thing. And so we're in this room, and we're in this old building. I think think it's definitely pre-World War II. So I don't think this place got bombed. It was in the industrial area on Friesenheimer Insel, so Friesenheimer Island. It's right on the Rhine River, and the infamous Rhine River. And I felt the need to do a radio voice at the moment. I don't know why. A little schizophrenic, I imagine. Something of that nature. I'm sure you would tell me otherwise, but
you're fine from what I've seen so far.
Okay, cool. Get to know me a little longer there. I guess we'll have some deeper discussion.
Yeah.
So this building is called the Power Tower, and I don't know. I think it was an office building for the area around it. There's there's a place that makes seed oil, and there's some steel, some industry around there. And this building was 4 stories, and in the center was a stairwell. It's hard to describe. It's like when you're on the floors at the bottom, you can see down 3 stories, and on the 4th one, it was like closed off, and it's big too. It's like 60 feet by 30 feet, so it's like a long one that you go up.
Right.
And so in this building, there's different levels and different sides of the building. So the left, you walk in, you go up to 3rd floors, which we were on. If you go up and you go to the right, that would be a corridor that went down the length of the building. On the outside stairwell, that would have your mixers, your different bands, your producers, and on the other side, so that we keep it separated for security reasons, people don't steal your stuff, things like that. So we were in this room, and it's old. I mean, we had to paint it. We had to do it. It's old and musty, but we're playing, metal music, and it's what we did. I was like, 24, 25 at the time. So this is 2004, 2005, and we're in there. And I don't know if it was a Sunday night, Saturday night, but so this hallway, there's motion detector lights. And there's doors in between for fire stuff. Like in Germany, they're very, very safe in what they do. So you go down the hallway, and then you go, I think, 2 doors, and then you make a right turn, and then directly to the right again is my room where we were in. And then if you keep going straight after you make the right turn, at the bottom there's a fire escape, but it's not outside; it's inside. So an extra stairwell for fire protection. They got their extinguishers, they got all that good stuff. And we're in the room, and we got the door open. It's the weekend. No one's in there. We're not bothering anyone. No big deal. And if anyone said, could you close the door, we would have done it. No big deal. So to save electricity, there's motion detectors. So the hallway is dark, right? But the light from the room is then shining out of the door at an angle into the hallway. So it makes like a kind of a rhombus kind of shape on the wall as well as the floor, about halfway up. And I'm sitting on the couch. We're in between one of our songs. I can't remember, Battle Authority or whatever it was. Young guy stuff, yelling at the powers that be. And we're sitting on the couch, and it's me on one side, closest to the door. It's across from me, like across slightly to the left, maybe 20 feet. It's a big room, and my guitarist is here, I think, and then my drummer, which we talked about on my podcast, if he remembered my reaction to what happened, and my bassist, and we're just kind of talking, blah, 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 shooting the shit, blah, 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 guy stuff. And I hear outside, just as we're talking, I hear like one of those doors in the hallway open and shut. And I was like, I was probably someone up here, recording, coming to ask to shut the door, no big deal, right? Then I hear footsteps, distinct footsteps, very distinct. But I didn't hear another door open to one of the band rooms. So I'm like, okay, a couple minutes passed, 2 to 3 minutes. And I don't know what told me, I looked up, and right in front of that doorway, and like you were describing, about 7 feet tall, I'm 6'3" myself, and I'm under the door frame about 6 inches. It's an old building. So, people were shorter in the old days.
Right.
And this thing, you could see, just this very distinct outline of a shadow. I didn't see any eyes. Just cross in front of the door, just like normal speed if someone was walking. It wasn't bouncing; it just floated across the door. It had that distinct hat that I didn't know it was a hat, man. I didn't know what that was called. I came here, and I was, like I said, I was in a former podcast with another guy, and I was like, he said, "So what kind of stuff?" And I said, "Yeah, I seen this dark shadow with a hat." He goes, "Oh, you seen Hat Man?" And I go, "What's that?" And I looked it up, and I go, "Oh yeah, that's what I saw." And the hat is. We were talking about 3-4 days ago. It looks like the spy versus spy hat. It's not like a 10-gallon hat or with a big cowboy hat. It's kind of as if like a 1920 gangster, like maybe like Dick Tracy kind of like that. That's a good way of describing it as well. And just crossed in front of the door. I'm staring like did I just see that? And they reacted to me like, what did you see? And I go, I don't know. I wasn't afraid. I just seen it. And I just didn't know what it was. I stood up. I walked to the door. I looked to the right because that's the way it went towards that stairwell I was telling about. Nothing. Didn't hear the door open. Looked to the left. Nothing. And they were like, "What you seeing?" And I described it. I just told you. And yeah, it was the damnedest thing.
That's crazy, man. Yeah, I've seen him.
I've seen him too, dude. I don't know what he wants. Maybe a good macaroni and cheese recipe or something. I don't know what he wants. So,
what do you think the shadow figures are that we and other people see?
I don't know. There's the shadows that we've all kind of seen, but can't like go. I definitely seen it. There's some people who do, of course. Like you'll see videos. Excuse me, on the internet where you'll actually see them. You'll go, well,
Yeah.
But this particular one is very black. It stands out. It like sucks the dark. It's blacker than black, dude. And it's so distinct. Its outline is so distinct. It's there's no fuzziness. It's just like it's almost like a if someone would have cut out like construction paper and just run it across the door without it being shiny. You know what I mean? It's kind of like that. It looks surreal, but what is it? I haven't the slightest clue. Is it some type of like we're connected on a conscious level, like with a connective conscious or whatever. So I can't think of the word right now. I'm sure you went to school for it, but I don't know what it is, man. I really don't.
Yeah. Yep. I'm not sure either. There's a lot of theories out there. A lot of people will say, well, shadow figures are the same thing as ghosts. It's just a different lighting. I've also heard, well, they're interdimensional beings. Maybe they're ripples in time. There's all kinds of different possibilities.
That one I like the most. It's like they kind of like the two realities. If you can sense it in like a 3D universe where they touch for a second. But what makes no sense is why they always look like they're wearing a hat. Wouldn't it be a person with an umbrella if it's from the 1920s? Like one of those dames back in the extra, or read all about it. Wouldn't it be different ones? You know what I mean? Yeah. It's just this particular one, which is weird.
Right. Yeah, there's been a lot of theories lately going on, which I agree with completely, where they talk about how time really doesn't exist. Everything that's happened and will happen is all at the same point in time. You're just looking at different vibrations. The vibrations change throughout what we call time, so that's why you have an expanse between one and the other. So
right, because we tend to look at it linear, like in a linear sense.
Right.
Either in a linear sense, like in a 1985 6, and then, or we look at it in a cyclical sense, like the seasons in the year. But to look at it as if it's like Einstein's in equal MC square, where like it bends itself around and it goes out in all directions, like it's a fabric. That's a little hard. Even for me, it's hard to contextualize in my head.
Oh yeah, and we get to talking about things like quarks and neutrons and different things like that. Quarks go. We believe they travel backwards through time. There was actually a really cool theory that I heard about the other day. I think I may have even seen it on TikTok, and they were talking about the electrons. And every electron that they have ever measured has been exactly the same. So essentially what they're saying is that there's a possibility that there is only one electron, and it moves forward and backward through time and occurs all throughout the universe.
What would that do? How would that be in connection with, say, supersymmetry?
I'm not really
sure.
You know
what I mean? Like where it's charged, where a particle is charged one way, and then a particle the same, they change the charge, and then it turns the other way.
Exactly.
On the backside of Jupiter or something like that.
Right. Well, I think what they were saying basically is that, okay, so we have matter and we have antimatter. So the electron itself, when it's moving forward through time, is matter. When it goes backward through time, it then becomes antimatter.
That's interesting. That time.
But it happens
Wow.
continuously. So the electrons that are in the molecules of your hand all contain the exact same electron. There's one electron. All of those are in all of my matter, all of the matter of the computer in my room, all of the matter in you. It's all the exact same electron. It just travels so fast and so continuously forward and in reverse through time that it's inconceivable for us to even understand the basics of it.
I'd have to sit and chew on that for a while, man. You literally, that's a lot, dude. Is that recent? It's recent, like concept. Okay.
Yep.
It's called concept.
It's pretty interesting. I mean, there's some holes in the theory and everything like that, because if you look at CERN, where they took two particles and they shoved them together,
Right.
once they went around, well, in that theory, those two particles are the exact same particle. Right. So what they would have to do is nullify one another. They don't, instead of exploding and destroying each other, they have to do something, because they no longer exist. So either they create a tear or a rip in time.
Right. That's exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Which explains all the Mandela effects that we're seeing.
Yeah. I can think of a few of those things that a lot of people don't even talk about as far as Mandela effects. So
there's ones that just that messed me up big time. I mean, like the Volkswagen symbol was never together. Really?
Yeah.
Really?
No,
I know it was together.
Yeah, it was. It was always. I thought it was always together.
18 van, silver on the top? I don't think so, dude. No. It was all black with a red stripe.
Yep, exactly.
It's pretty wild stuff.
Oh yeah, I'm with you on that.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've talked Poltergeist, we've talked Hat Man. What else has gone on in your life?
This is recent. Okay, so I've seen, since I've been here, 2 apparitions. One at my former partner's house. He was saying, hey, he's very sensitive to this kind of stuff. He's had UFO. He writes down all his dreams. He really gets into this stuff. He's always been that kind of guy. I approach it differently, but he was like, so this is because he moved here too because of that situation. So that's one thing that we had in common. And so he moved in with his in-laws, and he was saying, oh, there's something in this house too. And he goes, yeah, my daughter said this and that. I've seen it too, and I was just like, don't worry about it, everything's fine. And so we're practicing, how we would talk with each other like that. It's a 2-man game. The 2-man game is different than what we do at the moment. The 2-man game is, it's fun. It can be very fun. But so he is facing out, and I'm towards the back of the house, towards the back of the property, and I'm facing in towards the house. And we're just, as a microphone set up, we're practicing, and I see this apparition, like this gray thing, go from the island into the wall. And I go, I've just seen it. And he goes, oh yeah, that's it. So that's new. That's my first apparition.
Yeah.
Yeah, no big deal. It really wasn't that big of a deal because this guy makes you feel comfortable. He's just like, don't worry about it. And I'm just like, I won't.
Okay, yeah.
And then another one at my job site recently, I was done grinding. I wasn't welding at the time, I was done grinding, and I just happened to look into the corner and I seen one of the rays up off the ground into the ceiling, like the same kind of smoky thing. And I was like, and I just kind of spoke aloud, like, I'm not here to bother you. You're cool. I'm just here working. And then that went away. Those are not the ones that are messing with me, Robert. Okay. The ones that got me, dude. Okay. So I came here because of that situation. I am a very liberal-minded person. Not liberal, but liberty. Not liberal. I still am, but they completely flipped her and lost her damn mind. But sorry.
That's okay. That's all right.
They're kind of out there a little bit. Blue hair telling me what to do. Okay. So I was like, they're never going to try to lock me in my house again, ever. I got lucky that I lived at the end of a cul-de-sac next to the forest, and I could just sneak in. I could just cross the lane, because in Germany, you take Germans and then you take that situation, put them together, and you're living in a very nice HE double hockey stick universe. So I would just go into the woods with my little kid. She's like 3, so we would play in the forest, away from everybody, and just get leaves on her, like get her out there. So me and my ex-wife were like, that's never going to happen to us again. So what are we doing? Let's try to go to the States. No, let's go to Germany. So Mexico. So we were able to do it real quick. Boom, got permanent residency. Boom. let's buy a property. So we bought 10 acres out here in the jungle. I'm down here in the Yucatan Peninsula. 10 acres in the middle of nowhere. Literally, it's 2 miles off the Gulf, or excuse me, 2 kilometers, 2.5 kilometers directly to the eye to the Gulf of Mexico, and about a kilometer off the road. But it's out there. I mean,
Very cool.
It's very cool, but also scary. I got jaguar prints out there I've seen. I have the different turkeys, not the North American ones, but this is still North America, but they're smaller but much more colorful.
Mm-hmm.
I can't think of the name of this. Oscillating turkey, I think they're called. They're very beautiful and animals I've never seen before. What the heck? Python one day, 7-foot python that just snuck up on me and all that stuff. So I had to clear into this property. It's 10 acres, right? And so I've been talking to this guy, and he was the same dude, you know. He was talking about this thing called a luxus, Alluxes. I think that's how you spell it. I'm not a very good speller at all. Trust me, I got a spell check there.
Oh, I do.
Oh, I'm the worst. My brain is much quicker than my fingers. I can speak. I'm an orated person, but I'm not a writer. So he was telling me, so apparently these things are like a cross between an homunculus, if you know what that is. An homunculus
Yes, I do.
is like something that's created, and what is it? What do I call it? It's like a cupid type fae. What do they call those? Cherub, like a cherub.
Mm-hmm.
So these things are about 2.5 to 3 foot tall, brown skin, Buddha belly, naked, like a kid-looking thing with a slightly larger head. This is what they're described as. I have yet to see one.
Right.
But these are made by the Mayans. I live down here in Mayan territory. My girlfriend is 100% Mayan. There's people. I was at work the other day, and they were speaking Mayan.
Oh, man.
It's wild. I'm out there. They speak mostly Spanish, and then there's 3 of them that spoke Mayan. I didn't know this. I'm out there doing my thing, and I go, wait a minute, this isn't. What are you guys talking? And I spoke in Spanish. Oh, we're speaking Mayan. Oh, that's wild. So apparently, the Mayans would protect their corn crops by making they would take like animal blood and like something like that and corn and mud, and they would make like this little pile, like a statue, and they would put like, you know, food out of the corn and water, and they would do some type of ritual, and they would do this over 7 days. And then after the 7th day, apparently, I don't know much about it, this thing would then disappear, and it would protect the people's crops. And this is throughout the whole region. I've heard so many stories of these things where people come into contact with them, and they see them, and they get like a fever, like where people will get a fever for like 40 days. Some of them supposedly, more or less, you know, are no longer with us. Goddamn YouTube. I can't use really simple English language anymore. I've heard like where people developed, like they were playing in a cave, like kids. This is from one of my coworkers, where they were playing in a cave, and one ran across one, because there's a lot of caves here. It's all limestone formations.
Right.
And one supposedly ran across one and developed a stutter that they never got rid of. Like, this is supposedly like a real thing. I'm going to start going actually out and talking to people and subtitling it. So that's going to be a fun thing for me to do. But so I bought this property. I had to clear into it. It took me 3 days just to cut a path about 100 yards long and wide enough to get my Ford Ranger down, my old 2005 Ford Ranger down. 300 and something thousand kilometers on it, blew the motor within the first 2 months. Welcome to Mexico. Yeah. And so I find this spot that I want to put the cabin. It's kind of behind this hill. It's like, it's the whole property is in like a bowl, but I own the hillside too. And I wanted it that way because there's no cell signal out there. I wanted that. I wanted to see how I felt, and I feel better when I sleep out there. I sleep better, deeper. It's just better. So I built this site, and it's like a little cabin. It's nothing big. It's like I don't know, 12 by 15 foot cabin. Nothing big, just a place to put a couple beds in, and then it has an extension on the outside. With the kitchen and the bathroom in it, and there's another part to the right with a shower and all that. But there's open areas where it's hot here. It's always 90 degrees. The only time it gets below 90 is like December, January, and February. I think it's maybe the coolest I've ever seen, 74.
Yeah,
it's a big time high.
I imagine that's probably during the rainy season, isn't it?
No, the rainy season is right now. This is when the mosquitoes come out, which is why my girlfriend might have dengue fever. Maybe.
Right.
She's suggesting that she might have it, which is like a parasite, and it makes you it's very painful. I think I had it one time. Not quite sure. Yeah, so I sleep outside in hammocks, and it's all mosquito netted inside of there, so the mosquitoes can't come in. Even though it's very small, there's this really small, like fly type mosquito thing that'll get in there. There's like 5 different species down here. The yellow ones are the ones you gotta watch out for with malaria. Excuse me. But it's not very prevalent here. So my ex-wife at the time, she's like, okay, I was like, you sleep in the cabin and I'll sleep outside the cabin while I'm fencing this property off. You know what I mean? It's gotta go up the hills and it's vines, it's the jungle, guys. Like literal, like it'll cut like every 10 feet. You can't see 20 feet into the woods. It's impossible. So trust me, if there's a cryptid down here, which there is, it's kind of like a skinwalker. I can't think of the name of it, but it's also like a shape changer. They have one down here as well.
Oh,
I can look into the name of it.
Yes, please do. I'd like to know about that one.
Yeah, I can't think of the name of it. She's not feeling well. I would ask her, but she knows the name of it. I can't think of the name of it. So I'm sleeping outside in these hammocks. So I sleep in hammocks all the time. Best for my back. I bought super expensive beds and Posturepedic this and this and that. In a hammock, I feel better. I can sleep good and I can actually live. So I sleep in a hammock. My daughter's sleeping in another hammock, and our hammocks are actually crossed. And I get up like 3 a.m, the witching hour.
Yep.
And I go. This is 3 different instances I'm going to talk about. I go to the bathroom, which is like around her hammock to the side. I go, do whatever I got to do. I come back, and I'm about to fall asleep. And Robert, in my left ear, distinctively, I hear like this. It's a female voice. Okay, like I said, I speak 2.5 languages. It's not English. It's not Spanish. It's not German. Is it Mayan? I don't know. I haven't heard it at that time, and I can't remember if I heard it. And my natural reaction is just to swing with my right fist because I thought someone was talking in my ear.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked, and there was nobody there. Okay, then maybe 2 months later, I was in my hammock again. It was crossed at this time. This is before I put the addition in the shower. And I go to the bathroom again. It's also the same time in the morning, and I see above my daughter's hammock like a circular blue light, not a globe, not an orb, but a light shining. It's a metal roof, so it's shining on the roof. It's like bluish white, and it's very pretty actually. And I go to look for where the source of the light, like it's a flashlight or something. I thought someone was out there messing with me. I'm looking, like is someone on the property shining a light in? And as soon as I go to look for that, I don't see it no more. Like I go to look back and it's gone. Okay, and then the third time, and remember, I'm not a religious fellow. Okay, I am a man of God, not religion. You know what I mean? But I do know that the name, the power, the strange thing about it, Robert, is that these people, when they come into certain situations, whether they're being attacked from Sasquatch or being abducted by aliens or this, that, and the other, if they use Jesus' name and the name of Jesus, it seems to affect the outcome. Let's be honest. Whatever that means, I don't know either.
Right.
So this time I'm in a different part. She's a little, maybe 6 months older. So she's, how your children develop, so you kind of give them a little space to see how they develop. So she's close to the bathroom and I'm close to the shower. So we're offset about 20 feet, 30 feet. And I'm in my big hammock. Same thing, get up to go to the bathroom. That's when I go to the bathroom, I suppose. And this time in the shower to the right of me, the door's open in the shower room. There's that same light, but it's on the wall. It's on the wall, not up this time. It's on the wall. It's vertically on the wall. And once again, I'm like, what the hell is this? And I look over and I look back and it's gone again. Same shower where I killed a snake in the night with a machete. That's a true story too. He was eating ants. He was eating ants. I was climbing up the post that I made in there.
Uh-huh.
But I can't have a snake in there. It wasn't poisonous, but I can't have a snake in there, dude. At the same time I'm sleeping. I just can't.
Right.
It freaks me out, dude. Just thinking about it. So I'm like, okay, what the hell is that again? All right, so I go to lay down, and so behind me is the netting. It's maybe 2 feet behind me, and then I hear a voice again, but this time it's about 20 yards behind me, and I hear it's a woman. It's a female voice just talking. and I just didn't invoke, in the name of Jesus Christ. I revoke you from this land.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not here to harm the land. I'm here to improve the land. And you're allowed to stay, but you're not allowed in any sense to hurt my family. All right? Mm-hmm. Then I went up on top of the hill, which I may or may not have Mayan ruins, Robert. May or may not. I like my property. I don't want to kick me off there because I may or may not have those.
Right.
And I go to this place. I don't go inside of it. It's not a square. It's not a triangle, but you know what I mean. And I'm in there, close to it. I didn't go in. And I just, once again, made I didn't say the name of Jesus again, but I just said, look, I'm here to help. I'm not here to do anything. And I don't know what you guys are. There was also a rock thrown at me one time. That was the first thing that happened to me. I forgot that part. Mm-hmm. Campfire with marshmallows, and a rock flew in out of the tree. And they say that too. I've talked to hunters out here, and I go, "You hunt?" He goes, "Yeah." There's a mechanic. He showed me pictures of his deer and stuff that he got. And he goes, but if you're out there, anytime you're near like a mountain, like the flat part, you're fine. But you get near a mountain, and it's exactly where I was, like on the edge of not a mountain, but a hill. That's when rocks get thrown at you. And I was like, what? And then I got a rock thrown at me. So it's happened. Very common out here. So I went up there and just made my intentions again. And ever since then, I haven't had an issue. This has been like the better part of a year. But it's pretty weird.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Now, that light that you were talking about, would you describe it similar to like maybe the reflection of light off of the water? It just kind of looked like that.
Yes.
That weird. Okay.
Yes.
I know exactly.
Okay, what are you trying to tell me?
I know exactly what you're talking about. I've seen that before. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. What the source of it is. And it kind of
moves a little bit.
Yep.
It moves a little bit. It's not sporadic, and it doesn't. It's sporadic, but it's not fast.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
Yeah, it looks like if you were reflecting light off the water. That's okay.
Yep. And you can't find the source of it. I know exactly what you're talking about. I've seen it before. That's weird. Yeah.
To say the least, dude. To say the least.
Now the creature that you were talking about that the Mayans made. First of all, it sounds a whole lot like what we would call a golem, where it's made of clay and everything. Now, what was it they called it?
A Lucius. Or an Alush. It's the X makes a sound here. So ALLUX.
Okay. I'm going to try and look that up a little bit. That's
it's
very interesting.
Very prevalent. Very prevalent here. For example, like there's a bridge that they were making between Tulum. They're making a highway between Tulum and Cancun, Mexico. So Cancun is in the upper right portion of the peninsula, and Tulum is where there's Mayan ruins that are like castle on the beach, very rich touristy area. This the Caribbean side. I'm on the Atlantic side. I'm over on the hard worker oil side, which I wanted. And so they built the highway down there, and there's an overpass they were trying to make. And I think, Robert, if I remember right, I think they tried like 4 times, and either would like some equipment would take a shit, or they would crash down, or wouldn't pass the compression test. It was like something always happening to this particular pylon, I think it was. So they talked to the locals. They go, yeah, that's an Lucius thing. They're like, what are you talking about? And they go, yeah, all you have to do is make a shrine and then say it's okay, and then it'll work. So they built this big shrine. I think it's Playa del Carmen. I think that's the name of the little town south of it's between the two. And so they built the shrine. They built it again. It worked. 2 years later, something like that. 5 years later, something like that. They took it down. Bridge collapsed again. It's real, man.
Yeah,
this is amazing stuff.
Yeah. That falls back in with like the like in Norway where they work their roads around where the trolls live and things like that, and in Scotland, Ireland, in parts of England where they talk about the Fae. Even when you get into Germany and France and areas like that too, they have Germany is primarily the cobalt and different things like that. But there's
a kobold is a leprechaun.
Right.
Yes.
So you get into all of that. You get into the Slavic and the Russian. Pretty much everybody understands that those things exist, except for us over here. Except for white man.
I was talking to I have friends in Germany. And I was talking to a podcaster in Germany. Daniel Beshman. Chariots of Fire or the Rise or something it's called. Cool guy. And I was like, can you tell me anything about like German folklore? He's like, yeah, it's kind of old and no people really believe it anymore, but there's things here that do happen, but I don't know much about them because people won't talk about them because the Germans are very, and that's the truth. I'm not trying to make anyone feel bad. I've lived here 20 years. Prove me wrong.
Right.
But there's like, if you go to an amusement park, there's always like, witch rides and mushrooms and stuff out there. It's a really interesting place.
Yep. Especially when you get into the folklore of the native folklore of an area. Speaking of that, so native folklore, I can't even talk anymore. I think I give up on English. Native folklore of the area where you're at. Do you guys have anything similar to Bigfoot down there?
I was telling you there's a name of a cryptid. It's more of a shapeshifter, and I can't think of the name of it.
Oh, I know. Yeah, what you're talking about. What you were talking about a while ago.
Yeah, I can't think of the name of it right now. It's just one of it is. It's always a Spanish name, but the one I can tell you, the one I can really tell you, it's a Mayan witch. What we would call a witch, and the name of it, her name is called Ishtabai. X something BAY at the end. Ishtabai, XTABAY, something like that. It's a Mayan witch, very famous. Actually, I knew the owner of a bar that's called the Ishtabai. He's a friend of mine that I did English stand-up in the first time when I first did stand-up again when I first came here. And this, even my girlfriend can tell you stories about this thing that her uncles have experienced, or there's a famous case literally within a 3-minute walk of my house, where I'm living at now, from my house, or whatever. And it happens to like men who are alone. So, and people here tend to drink a lot. It's a hard life down here, guys. Why do people go into it? It's hard down here, very hard. She's a lawyer and makes maybe 1/20th of what you would make, maybe less than that. I would say probably less than that than what you would make. So there's a lot of drinking going on. So this guy was at a schoolyard, on the weekend, and he was sitting there. There's a big tree there. I know exactly where it is, on the bench. He looks over to the right. He's got his beer, whatever he's doing. Looks to his left, and there's a woman that approaches and sits down next to him. Supposedly, she's very beautiful, right? Mm-hmm. She'll ask you how you're doing. She'll ask you, would you like something else to drink? And blah blah blah. And he goes, yeah, you'll buy me some beer, sure, that'd be great, And, okay. And then she'll kind of like look away, and then the guy looked away, and then when he looked back, he seemed like a hag, like a sea hag. But the thing that it always seems to happen is that that the beautiful woman, her legs, one is then a horse's leg, and the other leg is then a chicken leg. But this is, I've heard that from that one, and then one on her property where her family is from, which is up on the hill here. I think it was her father or uncle, seen the same thing, and it freaked him out, and he never came back to the property again. So there's also supposedly a witch here that was boarded up in a cave next to the ocean. This place is very steeped in you have to think of the Dias Nos Muertos, the Day of the Dead. It's very steeped in that kind of stuff. So it's like a mixture of Catholicism and like old world, or as I call it, new world superstitions.
Right.
So there's a place here called Pomuch, Pomuch, which I think someone told me what the name of that was. Tail of something. The guy, it's a Mayan word, Pomuch. And there's a cemetery there that's coming up soon, that the people go in there every year. They go and they take out their loved ones' remains from like these catacombs, from these above ground mausoleums, because it's all rock here. They can't even bury them in the ground. And they will take and it will clean off the bones, put them nice and neatly in a box for everyone to go around and display. Look, my family is still here. They do this every year. And if there's hair still there, or if there's like a little bit of flesh still left, they like that because it means they're still with us. Mm-hmm. So it's a very strange mixture of European culture with Catholicism, which is also strange in many aspects. Anyone else like drinking the blood and eating the flesh of a 2,000-year-old dead guy? Okay, sure. Vampirism and cannibalism, one thing. Okay, sure.
Exactly.
And you mix that in with the thing, because the conquistadors came and they would just leave the bodies out there for the vultures to come, and they would it's like a thing, and they were like, you can't do that. That's creepy. So they like allowed them to keep some of their traditions and culture. And this Alucias thing and these witches, especially Ishtar, which is the famous one. Oh, and La Llorona is also probably one that you actually know, which is super famous. It's a very, I don't know if there's a lot of folk stuff when it comes to things that you might recognize. I'm still learning. There's also, maybe it's called Duende.
The Duende, yeah.
Is that the little people?
Yep.
I've heard an interesting story about that one too. That was crazy. Someone was telling me at a party, dude. Wild.
Tell me. I want to hear it.
All right.
Do it.
So this is like, I just met her. We've been together for a little more than a year. And we had a party at the house, and there was some girl who came over who was complaining about her job, like everyone does. Not to be a girl, to be anyone. And she started talking to me, and she's like, "Oh, so what are you doing?" I said, "Oh, I started a podcast." And she goes, "What are you talking about?" I go, "Well, I talk about, what I've been telling you." And she goes, "Oh, I got a story for you." And I go, and she spoke good enough English for me to understand, and a little translation on the phone, and it was perfect. So supposedly her aunt is very special. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
When everyone down here has a special aunt, everyone has a witch aunt or an auntie that's a witch. Everyone, even my girlfriend, her aunt's a witch, right? And supposedly she said that one day, because she asked him, "Should I marry this one guy?" She goes, "No, one day the man from the north will come down and steal your heart." And apparently that's me, the man from the north. So that's weird. But yes, so we're at this party, Robert, and she's like, "Okay, check this out." So my aunt's very special, and she kept telling me that she was talking to these little people. They're between like 3 to 5 centimeters, which is about 2.5 to 3 inches tall, right? And she keeps telling me about this. "Oh, what are you talking about?" And she would always say that she's talking to them, and that they would like go into the rocks and the cracks and disappear into like the little caves in the yards and stuff. And so this woman was married or dating her uncle. Or I don't know if I can't remember all those details. I can only remember the juicy stuff. But she was with this guy, and she kind of figured out that he was then being unfaithful to her. So and then the little people like told her, and she's like, okay, fine, and she then yelled at him like, "I know what you're doing," and they both got in the car as they drove away, and they had an accident. Right? They had this accident, right? And I don't know if he's with us or not anymore. I don't remember all that. Maybe in a coma or something. I don't remember. But I remember this woman, the one that he was with, woke up and those little people were there.
Oh man!
Like in the hospital with her, and said, "Don't do that no more. We're here to protect her, and we know what you did, right?" And here's the crazy thing about it. They told her what they did. They said, "We went and we cut the brake lines." Now, this is before, like, she was, like, completely awake, able to talk to the authorities, anything, right?
Right.
The doctors, even. So they cut the brake lines, about to do it again, and, like, they left somehow. I don't know. This is what I hear. I'm at a party. We're drinking beer.
Right.
And so then the police come in to, like, ask her what happened. She's like, "No, we're just driving along, and we go to step on the brakes, and it didn't work, and we crashed." And the police are like, "Yeah, we looked and someone cut your brake lines." So the things told her that they cut the brake lines, and the police verified that they cut the brake lines.
Oh, that's crazy.
Whatever that is.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there with my Mexican Tecate or whatever I'm drinking, this beer, it's pretty good. It's good stuff. I'm like, I don't know where to put that one in my bank of stuff. It's wild. It's been a while since I told it. I'd have to go back and rethink about like some of the details. I'd like to, maybe I can contact her again and have her on one time to talk about it. But it's a lot of the stories around here. Oh yeah, there's this. They have like there's people you can go to. I can't think of the names of them, but they're like kind of a medicine man, kind of dude or woman, witchy kind of thing, and they can say, "Hey, I think this person's being unfaithful," which is a big thing here. It's super duper prevalent here, and they will then say, "Okay, well, pay a little money, throw some chicken bones around, whatever they do. I don't know. I don't know, but I know what happens is that they send like these black dogs behind people to watch over them, to see what they're doing. And that's also a very interesting thing about down here, because the way I describe it to people who's never been here before, I don't live in the central plateau of Mexico, which is where most of the people in Mexico. It's like 130 million. I think 80% live in that area. I live down here. This state is like 3 to 4 times the size of, say, West Virginia, and it has less than 1 million people in it. So it's really a small little nothing, which is what I like. I like the forest. I like being away. This is perfect. And I can't remember the point I was getting to. This place is, if I were to describe it to you, it's like going back to 1994, but with cell phones.
Oh, that's cool.
It is cool. It is very cool like that. But they will, a lot of petty theft. I've gotten my battery stolen in my truck twice within a month, so I had to put a chain on that joker. I had to chain it from the hood to the frame. To make sure the chain doesn't rattle around and hit my radiator. So it's a cool place, but at the same time, there's things where you just go, man, you guys, they won't get out of their own way sometimes, you know. There's a lot of that too. They drink too much.
It sounds a lot like what I've heard people talk about Alaska.
I'd imagine. You know what? That's a very good connection I never thought of before. Yeah, but Alaska, at least their cars are road ready. I've seen people down here driving in those old Volkswagen Beetles with no fenders, sitting on top of like milk crates, shifting gears. I've seen a man driving a motorcycle with a woman holding a baby breastfeeding. Not a helmet between them.
Gotta do what you gotta do.
It's hard.
Yeah, it's a harder life, definitely, but you know, maybe that's more along the lines of where we're supposed to be rather than what we are doing a lot of times.
There's things that I wish they would have. I wish they would have more like protection. Like they don't have any fishing licenses down here. Mm-hmm. So like people overfish, but they'll keep the smallest thing and fill their bucket up with these small little guppies basically, and then like, you know, skin them all or take all the, you know, all their scales off of them, and then like just cook a soup. And you're just like, well, if you guys would wait a while, or they'll go hunting, you know, because they only really hunt out where I live. There's guys out there walking with shotguns and buckshot out there, and they'll go hunting like 10 at a time with like 5 hunting dogs and just drive the deer, and then they'll turn around the next year and go, "Where's all the deer?" Because you guys hunt them away and they won't come back. There's so much forest out here. They would live easily out here if you guys would be conscientious about it, but people don't want to do that. So there's a fine line that I think certain things need to be reached. There's corruption down here is awful. It took me 1.5 years to get my paperwork done for my property, which shouldn't be, because no one wants to make a mistake or take the responsibility of signing off on something. So there's always like these bureaucracy, and in the end, it's like, dude, that would have took us 2 weeks in the States. You know? Yeah. But at the same time, if you want to build on your property, like my property, I don't need no damn building permit.
Right.
Just go and build on this and just make it. And that's it. And that's great. Property taxes, I pay like, what is it? $25 a year on 10 acres. So you got to pick your poison.
Right. Well, Tom, we'll go ahead and we'll start wrapping this up. Go ahead and tell everybody about the show, where they can find it, what you've got going on, and then we'll just start wrapping it up.
Sure, Robert. Thanks. It's the Eye of Jupiter. You can find me on YouTube. I release a show every Friday at 3:30 my time, which varies depending on the time of the year. So in the afternoon when you get home, it'll be there. Robert's one of my guests. He'll be on, I think I told you, the 20-something, about like a weekend before Halloween, your episode is coming out. I also do a live every Wednesday at the moment. We'll see if that moves eventually at 7 p.m. Eastern time. You can find me on Rumble. You can find me on Spotify. I'm not in too many places. I also have a Facebook group. You can come over and just come and hang out. We're actually it's a good community. It's a public group, and the people over there are just not, there's never been once where I had to reprimand somebody for being, mean toward another person for no reason. You know what I mean? Just come over, hang out, be cool with us, and come and check out my content.
Fantastic. Yeah, I hope everybody does check out the Eye of Jupiter because I think it's a great show. I know I had a blast on there. Tom's a great host. Made me feel very at home. So had a lot of fun.
Ditto, my friend, ditto. I felt the same with you. You make me feel like I'm doing my own show, but in reverse.
Well, that's the way it should be. That's the way it should be, buddy.
Yes, sir.
Hang on just a second. Don't leave. I'll catch up with you in just a second. Let me wrap this up and do the closing, and we'll have you back in the future, definitely, Tom.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right. Hey, everybody. Thanks for hanging around and joining us with another episode of Monstrous The Podcast. Had a ball talking with Tom from the Eye of Jupiter, and we'll definitely have him back in the future. Don't forget, you can find us on YouTube, on Rumble. You can find us on Instagram and on Facebook. We have the group Monstrous. Come check us out. It is a private group. We do have a couple of rules. There's no talks about religion and there's no talks about politics. But other than that, we have a ball. And don't forget, make sure you go and you lock your doors, lock your windows, check that closet, check underneath the bed because monsters are real. They do exist and you never know when they're going to be back. Y'all have a great night. Thank you.
Whispers in the twilight, darkness and a breeze. Shadows move in silence, mystery in the trees. Secrets in the moon.